name is Kristen Philippi. I'm a lead creative strategist here at #Paid, and I'm really happy to welcome you to our final Creator Effect of the year. This is our third volume. If you've come to 1 and 2, thank you very much. We're really hoping that this final touch point together can really keep you grounded and learn a little bit before we head into 2026. So let's dig in. As we close out 2025 in the creator economy, one thing has become very clear. Consumer attention is now both the problem and the prize for creators and marketers alike. Consumers right now are completely overwhelmed with content, whether it's human creator content or it's AI slop that I'm sure we've all seen dominate our feeds. We've always known that creators are a very powerful storytelling tool at the top of the funnel to stop the scroll. But as this content volume gets higher and higher, we're actually seeing that creators' super strength now comes from the trust that they've built with their audiences. Their humanity is engaging, and their community is a really grounding force in the social landscape. And in fact, creators are now even influencing what consumers expect from brands as they become that real trust and authority layer within the marketing mix. So now 57% of Gen Z prefer to shop from brands who offer a unique, tight-knit community. Wonder who kicked off that trend, but creators themselves. 71% of consumers say that creator content makes them more likely to consider a brand they've never tried before. And 49% of Gen Z have purchased a product after seeing a creator's recommendation. So like I said, creators are ultimately the trust and authority layer in the marketing mix, and they're now driving full funnel action, all the way from discovery to consideration and conversion. In 2025, creators have become the ultimate drivers of both culture and commerce, and they're no longer a side channel, but they're really the marketing operating system that all consumers are flowing through. So with that in mind, let's dig into the depths of our report. And as always, we're going to cover the creator effect and what creators are having impact on new technology and innovation, the media landscape as a whole, performance marketing, and then we'll cover a couple of things we're keeping an eye on in the creator economy as we head into 2026. The technology landscape continues to realign itself around creators, and these tech platforms are developing tools and innovations that make not only creating content, but also distributing content more scalable than ever before. I want to start this section off with a nice story. If you've come to this webinar before, you know that we love to talk about the Colin and Samir podcast. In March of this year, they had Mark Zuckerberg on their podcast talking all about Meta and what his belief on the next phase of the internet would be. And Mr. Beast actually came as a surprise guest. And Colin and Samir gave Mr. Beast the opportunity to ask Mark Zuckerberg for requests that would make his life easier as a creator. The first thing he asked for was better translation tools. Mr. Beast, 70% of his viewership comes from non-English speakers, and he has a number of different channels that translate and dub his content into different languages so that he can have broader global reach. He's spending a lot of manual time doing this, and it's a really broken user experience for people trying to consume his content. Fast forward into fall of this year, Meta listened and released a new product. Both Meta and YouTube alike have rolled out significant investments in their translation tools to make it easier for creator content to reach global audiences. Reels announced a Meta AI-powered translation that allows viewers to consume content in their native language. It kicked off with English and Spanish and the reverse. They've since released Hindi and Portuguese, but we can really anticipate heading into next year, this volume of language translation will continue to grow. On the YouTube side, they offer even more. In just the year since it launched, there's been 60 million videos that were dubbed within 20 different languages. The thing that's so transformative about this update in translation versus others is it's not just, offering captions in a different language, but creators' voice and face is actually being dubbed. So when you look at the translated piece of content, the creator's lips are moving in the unique language and they're speaking in their own tone of voice. So of course, this makes for an incredibly engaging and authentic experience. Translation tools allow for expanded audience reach and relatability, but it also really expands creative possibilities. Content can now be relevant globally, and as we see the creator economy continuing to expand rapidly in international markets, we can start to expect that we'll see a lot of new faces on our feed that we might not have known before because of these tools. It's really allowing border-free creativity, and I can't wait to see what's going to pop up on my feed from here. Creators continue to gain more and more control and power, not only over how they're producing their content, but who their content is reaching and what brands get access to their content. There was a really big update from YouTube in September where they launched a new ad format for creators specifically called Dynamic Brand Segments. If you've watched YouTube before, you're familiar with the format where you're watching a creator video and there might be a minute pause where they shift into an ad read, and the ad sponsorship is really burned into the actual video asset. That's becoming a thing of the past. Brands and creators alike will now be able to use dynamically inserted ad placements, similar to how you might consume like a skippable ad on a YouTube video. And this gives creators so much more power and longevity over their actual assets, not being tied to a specific brand partnership. Knowing that YouTube paid out $100 billion to creators in the last 4 years, we can only imagine how this impact will continue to grow as creators become more and more integrated, not just into the content ecosystem, but also the ad ecosystem. Over at TikTok, we continue to see the trend of platforms leaning into AI as a tool to support and accelerate creativity rather than replace it. TikTok this quarter came out with a new tool called Content Suite that allows brands to centralize UGC on organic content that mentions their brand. They're able to then take that content, put paid dollars behind it, and amplify it back into feed. When we know that 92% of Gen Z are discovering new products on TikTok, this becomes a very valuable tool to accelerate that discovery and trust, and layer in creators to amplify the themes and conversations that your audience are organically talking about already. Now, we couldn't talk about technology this quarter without mentioning AI and the new app from OpenAI, Sora. Sora was released at the end of September of this year, which grew to 1 million users in 1 week, and it had 4.5 million users just by the end of November. And it's estimated that there's anywhere up to like 11 million 10-second videos being shared every single day. This is why you're seeing so much AI content in your feed. The volume of content being produced is remarkable. It's having a huge impact on how we're consuming content and how creators are looking at content as well. But while there might be some videos that are slightly frightening, I must admit, seeing celebrities or politicians in very unique, shall we say, scenarios, we believe that we're also on the cusp of a new era of creativity. We really don't know what to expect when it comes to content production from AI in next year, knowing that this technology provides infinite forms of perspective. And we think that the artistic side of this technology is really just beginning, and it will continue to grow as creators get their hands on these tools in a more in-depth way. Reminder, Sora only came out the end of September. That's just a couple of months ago. We're really at the beginning phases of this type of content production using AI. As we turn to the media landscape, we see that this sort of creative perspective of creators that started on social has fully cemented itself into traditional media. You can look no further than Glamour magazine announcing Miss Rachel, a YouTuber who really appeals to younger toddlers and younger children with education type content. She was announced Woman of the Year by Glamour magazine. We now know that social isn't just hype, it's really an incubator for ideas, talent, and audiences that traditional media can't ignore and honestly can't secure anymore either. What we're seeing is a new era of creative talent that really blurs the lines between traditional and social environments, and they're pushing the boundaries of both of those arenas. Take Mr. Beast and Mark Rober here, for example. On one hand, Mr. Beast is building an incredible executive team with hires from platforms like TikTok, Snap, all these more traditional legacy placements where he's trying to build sort of what he's calling the next Disney. Well, on the other side, on YouTube, he actually, along with Mark Rober, posted the first ever video that was a collaboration video on YouTube. Mark Rober himself is also creating a show on Netflix, and this is just a micro example of how creators are really mastering both of these traditional and social spaces. But it's not just with streaming and television. We continue to see traditional publications lean on creators to make their publication more relevant for younger audiences. Creator Katie Fang has just been brought onto The Cut to start a beauty and lifestyle column for them. If we look to a very traditional comedy show like Saturday Night Live, they just revamped their cast this season, and a number of the talent in that cast are already TikTok stars, and they have a really strong cult following. So if we see breakout stars like Veronica Is Cool or creator Jeremy Culhane, they have a very strong following on social, and they're bringing that cult following to the traditional landscape. Finally, we have creator Jack Innanen, who went from being a social star onto FX's adult television show. And really what we want to encapsulate here and share are these creators having this unbelievable talent to navigate both spaces seamlessly. So you can see here, Jack has 3.4 million followers on his TikTok feed. He's still sharing organic content and building that community. At the same time, in the middle, he's able to engage with branded content. This is a piece of content that he built for Uniqlo while showing up in these traditional spaces with his FX adult show. But it's not just that creators are showing up in creative spaces that already exist. They're setting the tone and innovating the space forward. Does anyone remember the really wide format that took off on Instagram earlier this year? Did you know that that was actually made by a creator? So this is creator Adrian Purr. He posted this super wide format in late September and kicked off a trend that brands from Kit Kat, Red Bull, and even McLaren joined in on. This sort of innovation was recognized by Instagram as he was awarded an Instagram Ring Award for creativity that allowed creators and highlighted creators on the platform that were like pushing those boundaries of creativity. And he was able to turn his profile yellow, which is a great perk for being in the Ring program. Beyond wide formats, we're really seeing creators mature in their creative production. They're leaning into highly cinematic and highly stylized forms of content. This asset was from a campaign with Nara Smith and Reformation, and it looks much more like a mini short film or a mini doc style content than a traditional asset that you might have seen even just 5 years ago coming from creators. Beyond creativity, the creator craft is really pushing towards category expertise. Audiences are looking towards voices that they can learn from, not just be entertained by. It's actually very interesting to see that creators with exclusive knowledge and expertise are actually filling in the media trust gap and building sustainable revenue and followings by sharing their perspective, not just on social, but in newsletters, in podcasts, and in content, really becoming their own media channels. Take, for example, creator Johnny Harris on the top right. He's really popular on YouTube for his news style content. He also has a Patreon that he shares deeper content and supports a number of other news style YouTube channels to really have sort of a journalistic take in that YouTube space. There's also creators like Rachel Carden, who started Link in Bio on Substack, sharing her newsletter with updates on the creator economy and social media marketing. But even beyond these sort of channels, we can look to early adopter Emily Sundberg, who started her Feed Me Substack. We talked about her a couple webinars ago as an early adopter of Substack, and her revenue has grown significantly this year. By leaning into her expertise, she has increased her revenue by 280% on Substack in 2025, and her audience has grown in 2025 by 140% as well. What's interesting to see is these creators are sharing spaces with the traditional lifestyle creator that we've seen in this space for a really long time. We anticipate this to continue to grow, this sort of expert creator heading into 2026. Really what we're seeing is that creators are no longer here just to entertain. They're driving community, they're moving audiences offline, and we really are starting to see an uptick on this translation from the feed into real life. URL to IRL creator events have started this year will continue to grow in next year. We're seeing creators host tours, watch parties, concerts, really proving that social clout converts into foot traffic. And here's a great example. This GIF is Alex Cooper's Unwell tour in Vegas. As we turn towards performance, the theme of content online into offline action, from capturing attention to driving action, continues as we see the content and commerce user experience continuing to be highly intertwined. This quarter, we saw a large increase in launching of creator storefronts. Sephora and Condé Nast kicked off their own platform this year, and this creator storefront essentially means that inspiration and purchase can live in the exact same space. This storefront allows brands to really collapse the funnel and have much stronger attribution, especially in a DTC environment. We are able to showcase how creator content is, again, easily shoppable, translating straight from that inspiration into action. For brands that work more with a retailer, we're also seeing the retail media networks really leaning to creator content as well to bridge that gap in the funnel, driving full funnel action. 82% of retail media networks are using creators not only to boost awareness, but also to access customer data, leverage offline sales, online sales, and really get that depth of information about sales conversions. An idea that we've been seeing happen a lot is creators developing specific landing pages on either places like Walmart or Amazon that allow for that seamless user journey. What's important to think about as a marketer here is what is the unique content that you're making with your creator for each stage in the funnel, and being really considerate about that storytelling from the first moment they're discovering and searching for your brand on TikTok all the way through to when they make that actual point of conversion, either in a DTC or retailer environment. Beyond commerce, we continue to see creator content show up in performance-driven placements that go far beyond the feed. Everyone here, I think, knows that YouTube is just absolutely dominating TV viewership, surpassing all streamers in what people are actually watching in their living room. And what this really means is that audiences are now very comfortable seeing creators across every screen. The dynamic is really shifting from having isolated phone time with your creator to having co-viewing experiences when you're watching in your living room on the big screen. CTV ad in response to this is set to outpace traditional TV spend for the first time, growing significantly, and creators are showing up in that sort of commercial space as well as in that more lo-fi on the phone space. But while audiences are watching their Super Bowl commercial, they're also scrolling. 65% are scrolling on their phone while they're watching TV. That's a lot of data to really say how valuable and important it is to consider how both short form and long form storytelling integrate together into your campaigns. Creators are a very great tool to share and build that creative vision that translates from multiple different placements and curate the direction that has platform-specific tools, relevance, trends, and it really taps into different types of storytelling for that different full funnel experience that a consumer is taking in as they watch on both their TV and their phone. Ultimately, content diversity is becoming an essential tool for brands to properly communicate with their audiences in this environment. It is harder and harder for a brand to tell a super linear story about their brand in a single asset when there's so much competition and so much volume content and so many placements that people are consuming on. So leaning into a wide variety of assets that permeate your brand vibe or your brand sentiment through many micro moments is becoming very, very effective. When we think about a hyper-personalized, AI-driven ad-serving environment where the platforms are looking to serve the absolute most relevant asset to their audience in the moment of their purchase journey as possible, things like creative liquidity become very, very valuable. This is a great example here. This is a creator, Anna Zitar. She did a campaign for a Louis Vuitton lipstick. And these are 3 assets that were posted back to back in the same campaign. But you can see there's a lot of diversity in the style of storytelling to relate to a different content preference of the audience. That first asset on the top left is a little bit more direct to camera, that sort of traditional creator content that you would expect, a really human, authentic way in. But you can see there's 2 other assets. The one on the bottom is a lot more cinematic, storytelling focused, while the one on the right-hand side is really high glam, beauty, hi-fi that showcases the product. So really thinking about your storytelling in multiple different placements, putting that creator vision and face and likeness and community at the center, but being strategic with where your content shows up will allow you to drive stronger performance across all of your placements. That leads us into our final section, which is what we're watching as we head into 2026. There's a lot of exciting growth coming in the creator economy space. We've talked about this a lot this year, but creators more and more are taking control of their future by building sustainable businesses that go far beyond just the social feed. What's interesting to see is this is now capturing the attention of investors who are uniquely focused on creator businesses, and the valuation of these creator businesses are skyrocketing. If you recall, earlier this year, we talked about Steven Bartlett turning down a $100 million podcast deal in the effort to stay more in control of his own work. And his business has recently hit a valuation of $425 million as he's aiming to continue leaning into this expert creator POV and acting as his own media company. There's also venture capital firms like Slow Venture, for example, that have made a specific creator fund that's representing a very bold bet on creator entrepreneurship. This creator fund is actually investing in the creator themselves rather than their individual products, knowing that the value comes from the community the creator is bringing, as well as the brand equity of that individual. The first creator that they invested with is Jonathan Katz Moses, who's actually a woodworking creator who has a really strong audience of like beginner and intermediate woodworking enthusiasts. And he actually has a line of woodworking tools, KM Tools, that allows his audience to engage and purchase directly and support him. There's really a community for everyone online and with creators. But what we really want to showcase here, something we've talked about a lot this year, is creators are continuing to show that if you're not a collaborator with them, they're going to become a competitor of yours. It will be really important to watch what products and what creators get capital funding moving into next year, and keep an eye on which categories are getting a lot of pressure from creator products. Moving into a totally different topic, we want to talk about LLMs and how creators are influencing AI. LLMs, of course, have become a huge disruption to the digital experience this year, and we can expect that they will continue to influence the funnel and the advertising experience heading into next year. Even just yesterday, Google announced that they will be bringing ads into Gemini in 2026. But what's interesting to consider is that many LLMs are actually trained by scraping the internet for content and information. And of course, creators are making the bulk of the content that's showing up online. Some creators are leaning into this and actually selling their unused footage to AI companies for revenue to help train AI, but some don't even know that their content's actually being scraped. And creators are starting to demand that the tech giants sort of fess up and pay that they're using their content to benefit their LLM systems. I want to pause and translate to a clip from Jack Conte, who is the co-founder and CEO of Patreon, and share his perspective on this really unique moment in the creator economy.
First things first, which is just that I think it's crazy that creators' work is being used to train these models and generating hundreds of billions of dollars of value, and creators are not partaking in that value creation.
It is crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And if there's a piece of me, like I can feel myself going back to 2012 when Patreon started. It's the same thing, right? The same thing's happening again. And so it's like personal for me. Creators are having their work used without their permission. There ought to be a way to opt out. And two, creators are having their work used without compensation. There ought to be a way for them to get paid. It's that simple.
Agreed with Jack. It is that simple. So as we look into next year, of course, we're always focused on creators getting paid properly for their work and the effort that they're putting in. So it'll be very interesting to see how creator content starts to get more deeply integrated into AI and LLM, and how these tech companies sort of relate back to the creators that are so valuable for their platforms. We're getting really close to the end. We have a couple more topics here. Gen Alpha is here, and they're creator economy natives. They are shaping culture and commerce too. Gen Alpha is now not only active consumers of creator content, but they're producers as well. I'm really waiting to see who the first creator Nepo baby is going to be. Who's going to get all those advantages? We'll have to wait and see. But what's interesting to see is Gen Alpha content is less about mass media, but they're leaning into what we talk about all the time: community, authenticity, digital literacy, and sort of giving back and building that community. As many traditional children's networks are dropping their programming, both in Canada and the US, we're really seeing creators step in to be relevant in this audience and building that strong content network for a younger generation. And of course, who can forget Miss Rachel, who was announced Woman of the Year? That power of relating to a younger audience is very valuable. But it's not just about content. Gen Alpha creators are driving significant commerce. I don't know if you've heard of this creator on screen. This is Salish Matter. She's 15 years old. She launched a skincare line at Sephora and drew a crowd of 87,000 people to the mall launch in New Jersey. 50% of Gen Alpha children have requested a product that they saw in an ad before they turned 6. This audience is going to be extremely engaged in creator content, and we really anticipate that these voices will start to shape the next wave of content as they're reaching that 15, 16, 17 age mark in the next few years. And finally, we want to end on a very wholesome, very holiday feeling content trend that we're starting to see emerge. What's interesting in reaction to the endless digital creator, sort of digital AI-driven content that's coming is creators that are leaning into more tactical, screen-free analog formats. They're leaning into things that you can do with your hands, real moments, offline creativity, becoming real like cultural signifiers again. It'll be really interesting to see how these chronically online creators translate their virtual community into offline connection and their video production into actual tactile products. And that is a wrap. That brings us right to time. Thank you so much to everyone who joined the Creator Effect. If this is your first one or your third one, thank you for listening and learning with us. I will stay on the line if anyone has any questions, but I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and can't wait to talk more about the creator economy in 2026. There's no slowing down.